I know you guys have heard it already. You guys have heard it, right? Never mind, never mind the prime news, right? Of Jessica Hyatt, right? Young black girl, youngest ever black chess master. Never mind that. Meaningless on these YouTube streets, right? Meaningless. Never mind all of the advancements that's going on right now. You know, all the things that's going on. Never mind any of those things. You know what's the main point this week? The Wave God is out. The Wave God is out. Max B is back on the streets. He's touched down. Jim Jones is nervous. That's where he's at right now. That's more meaningful than the exploits of, people across the planet. Never mind those things. The monumental thing in nigger news, all right, is that the Wave God, Wavy Crocket, Max B is back on these streets, huh? Kudos. Kudos, huh? My man is back out. Now, I will say this. Initially, I kind of looked down on this whole fiasco, this quagmire, the celebration of a criminal coming home. I painted it with that brush. I did that. Not even gonna hold you. All right. I did some digging though. I had to do some digging. And I said, you know what? Maybe I prejudged too early. Maybe things were not what they seemed. Possibly. That's how it seems. But we're going to dive into it. Got to touch bases. Dive into the details. Because this is not what I thought it was. I'm actually surprised. Pleasantly surprised. Right? I thought Max B was a random nigger that went crazy. Had all of the opportunities in the world, but decided to go stupid left and, commit heinous crimes. That was my initial thought process. Boy, was I mistaken. This is why it's not good to be a headline reader. Okay, you gotta dig into the details on the crosstabs to see what really was going on. Okay. But your boy's back home. He was greeted with a hero's greeting at the gates of the prison cell over in Hackensack, New Jersey. Not too far from where I'm from. Okay. But he's back out. Originally sentenced to 75 years. Good Lord. Crazy. But luckily, he got out in 20. How can that be? How can that be? I said, man, somebody must be singing like a canary out here. It's from 75 down to 20. I said, how do you get that lucky? Especially if the charges that you were convicted on, right, is attempted murder or murder and robbery. Man, how the hell did he get off from 75 to 20? I had to dig in. Right? Now I'm sure the majority of you know about the history of Max B, his relation to the rap group Dipset from Harlem, New York, right? Protege of Jim Jones. Responsible for a lot of the hits that Jim Jones used to catapult his career to the top. Max B is attributed with a lot of that success. It just is what it is, huh? Jim Jones was able enough to see the talent and to recruit. That's what you do when you're a boss. When you see the talent, you recruit on your team. Okay? And I think it was in 2006, I believe that was. Apparently there was a robbery. Okay, there was a robbery over in New Jersey, and during the robbery, somebody that was being held hostage was killed unintentionally, but they were killed. Nonetheless, they were being killed while a robbery was ensuing. Right? So, long story short, how the story actually played out once I dug into the details, into the meat and the potatoes of the matter, right? Initially, how the papers made it seem was that Max B picked up a gun, went to a hotel room, was the mastermind who orchestrated this whole event, right? The sequence of events, and was and took it upon himself to go into the hotel room, gag and hogtied victims to rob them. That was the initial perspective that was given, right? Via the story. Come to find out, Max B was nowhere even near what went down. I said, wow, that's interesting. Now, according to the sources, how it actually went down was a female that Max used to deal with. She, along with other assailants, set up a new guy that she was dealing with, who came around fronting and stunting, styling and profiling, you know. And you can't show your plate to a nigga that's hungry, bottom line. And he was showing his plate to the hungry ones out there. They got hungry and they said it's time to eat, bottom line. All right. And they rolled up on the two victims in the hotel room, proceeded to rob them, wanted more. So they called the other victim to come to the room that they were robbing, and a fight ensued. There was a tussle over the gun, and one victim in the midst of the tussle was shot, killed. Okay? So how it went down. Now, it seemed like they tried to, for the sake of getting a high profile case. Now, judges and lawyers tend to build their careers off of high profile cases, right? That's how they build their careers, their name profile and name recognition, right? Once you begin to throw these charges of football numbers at people, you know what you're going to get? People that want to point fingers. It wasn't me, it was him, right? And once the officers, the detectives found out that there was one individual that connected all of those people, Max B, they said, oh, this is too good to let go. We got to charge Max B. And of course, who did they use, right, as a ruse to point the finger at Max B, and only use that person's word, no proof, no evidence, just that person's word to convict Max. None other than Max's ex-girlfriend, right? The weaker vessel, right? Easy to deceive, Eve, right? And because they threw some numbers at her, she didn't want to go to prison for that long. So, she decided to point the finger at Max. Max, unaware of what transpired, ended up getting arrested, charged with being the mastermind of the crime. This is just from hearsay. There was no evidence that led detectives to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Max was the mastermind behind what was orchestrated, behind the crime that was orchestrated. No proof, just word of mouth and need for a high profile name. There's games on top of games out here. Don't get it twisted, all right? So, come to find out that what caused his sentence to be so, like the years to be so large is the fact that he wasn't trying to plead out. He maintained his innocence. Gotta respect it. Gotta respect it, man. He wanted to maintain his innocence. I did not do that. I wasn't even there. Okay? And I didn't tell him to go and do that. Not only that, I did not get or benefit from this crime at all. I got no proceeds from the robbery. Right? No kickbacks, no proceeds, nothing of benefit came my way via this robbery. So he wanted to maintain his innocence. Could respect that. Now, what draws Jim Jones into the mix now is the fact that his bail was set at a certain amount. The bail was set at $1 million, which means he would have to come up with 10% of that, right? And yes, he may have been assisting in writing a lot of hit songs for Jim Jones, rapper Jim Jones from Harlem. He also didn't have a deal with him, so he didn't have all the necessary proceeds to go and to ensure his bail. So he enlisted the help of who? None other than Jim Jones. I'm giving you the abridged version of all that transpired, right? But this is going to make it palatable for the average viewer to fully understand, right? Don't take the outlook that just because this person, Max B, who has a record from him being his teenage years, 19 years old, for robbery, which is what they also use as a way to say, well, if he did that, he must have done this. Easy sell, right? Easy sell. That was Max's fault. I'm sure he owns that one, but he served his time. Right? So in order to come up with his actual bail money, he wanted to enlist the help of none other than Jim Jones. Now, the route that Jimmy took to work to get the bail, so there's been a lot of speculation, a lot of conversation on, was it honorable, was it not honorable, right? So to ensure, to ensure that Jimmy would not be throwing his money down the toilet, essentially what he did was he had Max B sign over the rights to his music for a certain period of time, right? Max, with his back against the wall, he did it. And I don't know what transpired, but the deal went sour. Max tried to get a new deal. All of those things transpiring made the clock run out on him being able to develop the funds necessary to get his bail. Then he ended up in jail. 75 years, right? So oftentimes when you decide you're going to actually fight the charges, they make it difficult for you unless you have the necessary resources to fight it. And they want you to plead out, right? So they can say, oh, I have X amount convictions on my record, right? These lawyers and judges, they use the conviction rate to boost their profile. Okay. So they want you to plead out. So they make it easier for you to plead than for you to say, I'm going to fight. Right. That's the system. That's how shady it is and can be. So fast forward 2024, 2025, I believe. He was able to, after all this time, you know what I'm saying, he was in jail, I think, for maybe, what was it, maybe like 5 years at that time. And he ended up making a plea deal so he can get out, right? Once he realized he would not be able to access the funds necessary and the chance and the clock ran out, he pleaded out and pleaded guilty to a lesser charge. And that lesser charge came with less time, right? Less time. So overall, he ended up doing 20 years. And with the time that he already served, he ended up serving 16 more. It's a lot of time. It's not a skid bid. It's not a skid bid, man. It's a lot of years, right? You go into jail, your kids are 1 and 2, you come back out and they're 20 years old. It's a lot of time has passed, man. A lot of days, minutes, seconds, memories pass. But he's out now. He's out now. Now, the conversation is he going to get his get back? I don't know. He's been welcome home, though. He's been welcome home. A lot of people have been celebrating his release. You know, I've seen footage of course, his, one of his ace boon coons, his ace boon coon, French Montana, right? I've seen him giving daps and dapping it up with Method Man and a whole host of other celebrities, right, who welcomed him home. I'm sure they've heard the full story, gotten the full context and all the details and understood, oh no, he was wrongfully convicted. He was wrongfully convicted, right? And of course, I believe, this part I don't know, I'm speculating right now, but I believe if he pleaded out, he's not able to sue the state because he pleaded guilty to the charges, to a lesser charge, right? So that's the case right now. Now, what's going to transpire, between him and Jimmy? They're in different places now in life, right? Grown men that have grown children. I'm sure neither one of them want to go back to prison. Okay. Okay. Jimmy seems to have a get out of jail free card. That's a different conversation. They're saying he's say that boy snitching, but I don't know, that's the talk, I mean, for all we know, anyway, I don't want to go on that. I don't want to go on that point. I think you see where I'm going with that, though. All right. He seems to have a relationship with, certain aspects of law enforcement. I'll just leave it at that. That's how it seems. I have no proof. I'm just speculating. But with that being said, Max is back home. He's a free man. And I'm sure he's excited about that. Welcome home, Max. Do your thing. Don't be stupid again. And don't get around stupid people. Be smart.